Hello and welcome to the Leading Lounge. I'm your host, Dr. Justin Dubose. Here in the Leading Lounge, we talk with today's leaders and unpack lessons learned and being learned from a career of leading and communicating in their field. These conversations are designed to be both informal and informative, and we want to equip you with wisdom and tools to empower you as a leader where you are and where you want to be. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 22 of the Leading Lounge. For today's interview, I sat down and I talked with Allie Brinza. Allie is a Chick-Fil-A operator up in beautiful Amarillo, Texas, and a fantastic leader. And in this interview, she opened up about a few really important topics. She talks about her journey in Chick-fil-A's Leadership Development Program, their LDP. It's a really unique, really well-crafted program that places you in different stores, in different scenarios, in different roles, with different teams, all to kind of test and discern whether or not you would be a good fit as a leader within Chick-fil-A's organization. She also mentions the importance of good relationships and good connections, and specifically mentions Giovanna Roach, who we interviewed her and her husband in season 1. That was episode 5 of the Leading Lounge podcast. You can go back and listen to that. But the importance of good relationships and good connections, and how much of a blessing they are to have a good mentor who has been where you are, a good coach who's done what you're trying to do and can help guide you and save you some time and headache along the way. And maybe most importantly for many listeners, she talks about the importance of finding your voice as a leader, that many times we're focused on the things that we don't have, or the things that we lack, or the things that other leaders have that we feel like we're missing. But if she could go back and do it again, she would find her voice and feel confident and lead from her strengths. So if you're a leader in any capacity, I know this will be a blessing to you. Allie's full of wisdom. I've worked with her personally and have seen her in action. She's an outstanding leader, great communicator, very transparent, and I can't say enough good things about her. So enjoy this interview and be blessed by her wisdom and insight. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Leading Lounge. I got a special guest, a friend of mine, Allie Brinza, who is an operator for Chick-fil-A, who's joined me today. So, Allie, thank you for your time, and thank you for being willing to share some wisdom and some insight with me about who you are and what you do and what you've learned and what you're still learning about leadership and communication.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm super happy to be here with you today. I love how you added what you're still learning, because I'm definitely going down that avenue and you've helped in those ways. So I'm very, very excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, good. We're all lifelong learners. So the first question I give everybody is it lets you just share a little bit before we get to some more pointed questions. Can you just share with me, tell us a little bit about yourself and your professional journey that got you to Amarillo, where you are today?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I actually was born in Texas, native Texan. Will hopefully be here until I die. I love this place. Have left a few times, but I have always found my way back. So grew up in a really small town outside of Fort Worth called Millsap, Texas. I'm one of 6 kids. And so I always tell people that the chaos of the restaurant is very much like my childhood. I think that's where I thrive. Find it feels like home. So grew up one of 6 kids, went to a really small school. Chick-fil-A was actually my very first job. So when I was 16 years old, was a front of house team member in Weatherford, Texas. Found my way to Chick-fil-A, got hired on the spot. Had no clue what I was doing, but really enjoyed it. Just the culture, the company in general, and the people I was getting to work with. So did that for a little while. Then school sports came into play, and I just didn't have time for a job for a little bit. So I ended up leaving and never thinking about a career option at that time. So left Chick-fil-A when I was 16, ended up going off to school at the University of Houston. And I ended up studying in hotel and restaurant management, where I really just fell in love with the hospitality industry. I wanted to get out of that small town. All my friends, I would say majority of our class, wanted to go to like College Station, A&M. That was too small of a town. So I needed to be somewhere bigger with some opportunity, and I really didn't want to know anybody. Yeah. So I found my way to Houston and absolutely loved it. The weather was terrible, but it was great for the stint that I was down in college. Yes.
True statement about the weather.
Right. So started going to studying hotel and restaurant management. And while I was in school, did a lot of odd and end jobs. I did serving, I did bartending, I worked events, I worked at hotels, really just trying to figure out what I liked about the industry. And then I actually found my way back to Chick-fil-A my junior year. An operator was actually hiring for a marketing director, actually a junior marketing director. So I took the role. It was a female operator, which was amazing. The marketing director at the time was a great female. I really admired her, had a lot of respect for her. So I started, then they said, hey, actually, she's leaving. Here you go. Be my marketing director.
Nice.
So that's really where I got my feet truly wet with Chick-fil-A, getting to see how one's ran, the ins and outs of the business. So did that for about a year. And as I was getting ready to graduate, I went to my operator and I told her, I really don't know what I want to do career-wise. And so she graciously gave me the opportunity to go to Atlanta, where Chick-fil-A's support center is. And so she set up some meetings with me to meet with a couple different individuals, hear their story. And I had one really rough meeting where I said, hey, I've drank the Kool-Aid. I want to be with Chick-fil-A forever. This is for me. And somebody said, hold your horses. You're not ready. You need to go grow. You need to work on yourself. So really just kind of slammed that Chick-fil-A door in my face at the time. And I look back now and I'm very thankful for, the feedback that I had gotten, and the eager Allie really needed to just calm it down for a little bit. So yeah. I went back home and I told my operator, I said, hey, thanks for that trip. It was very enlightening. I actually don't feel like Chick-fil-A is where I need to be right now. And so I made the difficult decision and left. I started working for Ecolab right out of college. And so doing that, it was a very male dominated role, which was really cool as a 21-year-old, female. So I went in, I got to learn some electrical, some plumbing skills. I installed equipment. Yeah. So it was really cool for me to just broaden my horizons, kind of challenge myself. I did that for a little while in Houston. And then my husband got the opportunity to move to California. And I said, all right, let's pack our bags. My mom was pissed. So I was moving with a guy that we were just dating at the time. And so I moved, did Eco Lab out there as well. So kept the same role, just trying to see if I liked it. Did a lot of swimming pools, which are absolutely terrible to take care of. I don't know if you have a pool, but I never will because of that job.
Yeah, I won't, because they're too much work.
Yeah, hire somebody for sure. But I did that for a little while. And then we got the opportunity to move back to Texas with his job. And at that time, was looking for something new. Wasn't really loving, working with my hands every day on dish machine equipment. It was really a grungy job, which not below anything, but I needed to mix it up a little bit. So when I moved back, I actually reached out to a different division of Ecolab, and I started doing food safety audits with EcoSure. And right now it really comes full circle because EcoSure now does the food safety audits for Chick-fil-A. Wow. And they didn't at the time. But yeah, so it, really all comes back. So I did food safety for about 2.5 years. It's a really hard job because people don't want you there. So you're unwanted. Sure. You're the bad guy. I got told so many times that I was the reason people weren't going to get their Christmas bonuses and their kids weren't going to have Christmas. Jeez. And crying on my feet. So it was really hard for me. I like the happy aspects of the job a lot of times. So I did that for a little while and really grew my knowledge just with food safety, still staying in the industry that I love. And then, so I was thinking about career options and really what I wanted to do long term. And the guy who had shut the door the first time on me with Chick-fil-A, I actually reached out to him and said, hey, I don't know if you remember me from 5 years ago, but I would love to look at what opportunities Chick-fil-A has. It's always just been a company that's been near and dear to my heart. I said, I've gone and grown myself. I'm a different person. I'm a different leader. And so he said, actually, we're starting something called External Leadership Development Program. LDP, the regular leadership development program, had been around for a while, but with us expanding to international markets, they were actually trying to bring in people who didn't necessarily have Chick-fil-A experience and see how we could train them up to run stores. And so I got the opportunity to be a guinea pig for that program. They put me in a team member uniform and shipped me to California and said, you have 6 months to learn the business. So it was very much like sink or swim. We had sold our home in Fort Worth. I had left my job with EcoSure. And I really didn't know what the future of Chick-fil-A looked like. I honestly thought I was maybe going to be more interested in marketing, so doing something corporate, because my minor was in marketing. I'd been a marketing director at a store. And so, yeah, I was excited to do something different. Clayton was very excited to hit the road with me. So we sold everything we had and we started our journey in the leadership development program.
Wow. And you were how old then when you guys sold it all and joined the LDP?
I was 20. How old am I now? I think I was 25.
Okay. Pretty young.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had bought a house, settled down, definitely thought we were going to be there forever. We were like the quote unquote comfortable, right? We could pay our bills, but like nothing, we were budgeting hardcore. So, we were very thankful with where we were at, but we always felt like there was something else we were looking for. And so after praying on it and really just trying to feel where we were led, Chick-fil-A just ended up working out for us. It wasn't anything that we had really ever planned. It just kind of, all came full circle.
Yeah. Just listening to you talk, I'm sure that your story has been helpful with the people that you hire and that work for you who come in 16, 17, 18, all those same feelings of like, I don't know, and adventuresome, motivated. I'm sure it's helped you connect with them and maybe get them on a similar path that you got on.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, as we're newer to our restaurant, but it is something long-term that we're really hoping that we can, build this leadership development pipeline. And then even if it's, people not wanting to go into Chick-fil-A, like how can they leave with these leadership skills and take them to that next career?
Yeah, for sure. Well, you mentioned the leadership development program. So my next question was specifically about that. How long did you go through that? How long did it take you to get through that program?
So it's a 30-month program, and I was right at 30 months. I exited in May of 2022 and I started in December of 2019. So right at 30 months, it was great. I mean, it was a lot. I mean, it's very unconventional, right? Like you're traveling on the road, you don't go home for Christmas, you miss a lot of things. And
the whole thing is very sink or swim, you said, right?
Yeah, so it's very much kind of the premise of it. You're either an interim manager, which you're running a store, a Chick-fil-A, while corporate is looking for a new operator, or you're going in when corporate has selected an operator and you're helping start it up. So you're helping create systems, processes, set that operator up for success during that grand opening. So those are the two different roles. I had the opportunity to be in both. And yeah, I would say as an interim manager, it's very sink or swim. You're running a location. You get there. You don't know what situations you're going into. You don't know what your team's going to be like. So there's been some pretty rough situations that you've walked into. Obviously, there's some where the operator told us 6 months ago that they're retiring and everything's a lot smoother. But a lot of times it just doesn't work out that way. So it's, hey, you got to think on your feet. You don't have anybody there as a resource. You've just got to figure it out because you're technically the top dog on site, right? So yeah, it was a long 2.5 years, and you learn to just kind of grit your teeth and bear it. I think at that point, it's what you sign up for. So it's kind of like,
good training for the real world.
Yeah, exactly.
So looking back on that, what would you say was the most beneficial part of that for you now that you're over a year in from being an operator? Is there any one thing that you're like, man, that was the sauce or part of the sauce?
I think the most beneficial thing about me being in the leadership development program was the fact of me learning to adapt because I didn't have an option. You had to go in, everything's on your shoulders. And you kind of just, play with the cards you're given. So, as an operator now, obviously I have more say, but instinctually, I'm able to just adapt more quickly to what's going on. I don't have to sit there, process, because I think the hard part about it is the restaurant is such a fast moving place that the people that just sit there and have to let things kind of simmer before they can make a decision, you really see the effects of that down the line. And so there's a lot of things that have to be quick. And guess what? At the end of it, we either like our decision or we don't like our decision, but we're going to be able to fix it. We'll be able to figure out down the line, if we need to do things differently, if we need to go back and reassess things like that. But in the moment, something has to be decided. And so LDP, that was the name of the game. And a lot of times you're only at assignments for 3 to 6 months. And so it's really hard to impact things in that amount of time as well.
So would you say as part of adaptability helped you be comfortable maybe with making quick decisions that might be imperfect, but understanding that that's better than not making a decision at all?
Most definitely. Yeah. And I also think like giving myself a little bit more grace, knowing that, hey, like right now I do need a decision and I'm going to make it. I'm going to make the best decision based on, what I know, the knowledge I have, or the resources I have. And really, that's all you can do at the end of the day. And if I can get to it later, great. But knowing in the moment, like these people need me, and as their leader, as their operator, like that's my job to be there to show up and to get it done.
Yeah, I have some friends who went through some like difficult selection schools in the military, and they were saying that one of the very first variables they try to figure out about people is, can you make a decision? And it's like making a bad decision is better than not making any decision when people are like, hey, what are we supposed to do? Where do we go? What do we say? That
Yeah.
even making a bad decision is better than no decision when people are like, hey, what do you want us to do? Because like
Very
you
much
said,
so.
you can always go back and triage and figure it out.
And you're
But
going to learn, right? Like that's the best way to learn and grow. And I
yeah,
think you can't be afraid to do that. Like
right,
nothing is more irritating when I have people that are indecisive and I'm like, I don't care. I want you to
right,
decide, and then I'm going to help support you whether that's right or wrong. Like we're going to get through this.
right. Yeah, you can't be afraid of failing. You just got to go for it and learn from it.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a good lesson. That's good. Okay, so you've been an operator now. I know you just had your 1 year anniversary, right, of owning your store.
Yes. Yep. So we just had a year, August 1st.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank
Big
you.
milestone. So if you could, even though you've only been at it for a little over a year, if you could go back and visit with the Allie of, what'd you say, 2019,
Yes.
who was just starting the LDP, what would the Allie of today tell that Allie?
I would say find your voice sooner. I feel like that was something coming into LDP as an external participant. I didn't have the Chick-fil-A experience that majority of everybody else did beside me. And I feel like that very much gave me this like insecurity, a muted tone, even though I knew a lot of things and I did bring a lot of like my outside business experience to the table. I was a great asset. It just took me a long time to find my voice, to be like, okay, even though I haven't done this 4 different ways already in these different Chick-fil-A's, or I haven't worked in the business for 7 years, like this is still a very reasonable way to like look at it, or
Sure,
like
yeah.
I have a brain that works. I just felt like I didn't use it very often. I was timid. I didn't want to embarrass myself or say the wrong thing. But at the end of the day, it's just chicken, first of all. I think that's like, yeah, I mean, honestly, it is, right? You talk about whether it's the wrong decision or the right decision, you got to make one. And so I wish I would have found my voice sooner and been more confident in what I did bring to the table, even if it wasn't Chick-fil-A related.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good, because I think a lot of people are probably held back by those, like, well, I don't have as much experience as this guy, or I'm not as educated as this girl, or whatever. And it's like, no. Your views are just as valid as theirs, and so speak up. And in fact, you might be the voice that's missing from this conversation that would really direct people to the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, very much so.
So there's two focuses, Allie, of the podcast. One's leadership, one is communication. And we're talking about not being afraid to fail, and anyone who tries to lead and just kind of steps out there fails. So one question I like to ask everybody is about a time when you personally failed at communicating. My theory is people can identify more with your failures than they can your successes. So tell me about a time when you would say you failed at communicating. What happened? What'd you learn from it? And did that change how you communicate after that?
It actually kind of goes back to what I wish I would have known or would have done differently when just starting LDP. But when I was in the program, it was very male dominated, which being an operator is as well. I think out of the 2,400 Chick-fil-A operators, like less than 300 of them are females.
Oh,
And so
wow.
it's very easy to feel, I don't know, just kind of, it's harder to feel empowered, I guess, sometimes in certain
Yeah.
situations. And so when I was in the program, was on an assignment with all guys, and we had split up the business. You're going to take front of house, we're going to take back of house, we're going to divide and conquer, right? Just because there's a lot going on. And so we were doing this, and one of the spouses was actually married, and their spouse was heavily involved in the business. So the gentleman was the participant and the female was just kind of like, we had her on payroll as a team member, but she obviously had a lot of Chick-fil-A experience. Don't take that away from her at all. But it just became like I felt like I was getting overrun as the
Mhm.
interim manager, as the person that Chick-fil-A had, placed there, trusted to help steer this business. And even though me and the guys were all, in equal positions, the spouse that was a team member just had a very loud voice, very controlling, wanted things done a certain way. And then also I felt like a lot of times I ended up getting degraded just because, like, hey, I was learning a lot. I was early in the program. And that was another thing. Like, I didn't communicate as well because I was afraid of, looking stupid or not knowing
Right.
something. And so for the longest time, I would say for probably, I don't know, a good 5 weeks that we worked together, I would go home and I would break down. Like, it was just mentally so much for me. And I wasn't pushing back. I wasn't giving this person feedback on, first of all, how they're talking to me, degrading, rude. And it took them actually making a comment to me and their spouse about us not being able to properly run the restaurant for me to like get ticked, right? For the longest time, I let it eat me up personally. And then when it came to, you calling out my leadership, it's where I just kind of had enough. And so we finally, I took her into the play area one day when it was during COVID. So, nobody was in there.
Please tell me you beat her up. Did you beat her up?
Right. There's some I wish I would have. But no, it was really all about me communicating like, hey, first of all, this isn't a debate. I'm not here to ask you if, do I feel like you're talking to me like this? No, this is what's happening. And this is how I'm feeling. And I don't want to go home hating my life anymore, upset about what's going on at work. Clayton's dealing with the repercussions at home just because I was so emotional about it. But it got to the point of me like just saying, I don't deserve this. Like, first of all, you don't have the right to treat me like this. But me being vocal enough to speak up and say, no, like, I'm your boss, actually, and I don't ever like to put that card. But it took me getting to that breaking point, which is totally, I could have saved 4 weeks of my life where I was just not pissed off every day when I went home.
Right.
I'm sorry, Clayton, if you're listening to this. I know that it was a rough time for you, bud. But yeah, I just think like, and all it circles back to me not communicating at all. Me just trying to push it under the rug, not worry about it,
internalize everything.
Yep. So it taught me a lot. And after that, I was very quick to set ground rules, especially if people had spouses in the restaurant, about, hey, this is the boundary of like, you are not directing the team. Like, they're going to listen to me. Like, I'm the leader right now. But then also like the respect aspect, because if I'm asking that from every other team member, your spouse is also a team member. And so I would, expect the same in return. So it helped me just figure out, hey, what does it look like? And what do I need from the people that I'm working with, and communicating it.
And that's all part, like you said, of your earlier answer, just finding your voice. Finding your voice, feeling comfortable, feeling confident, feeling empowered.
Yeah, definitely.
No, good stuff. Okay, last question I've got for you, Allie, is just about relationships and connections. So everything is all about who you know. And that's not just true for like climbing the corporate ladder, but even just making you and your team and your business and stuff better. So I was curious about what you would say is the most beneficial relationship you've made in your leadership journey. And what about that particular connection or relationship made such a huge difference for you?
So this question, I mean, I feel like there's just so many people who have impacted me in different ways along this last 2.5 years. But honestly, when I think about right now where I'm at and who I feel has been most impactful, I think of Giovanna. I know, Giovanna, but really it's crazy. I did not meet her until I was 2 years into the program. This is at the very end of it. And really, as much as we did hit it off, I only worked with her for a little under 3 weeks, I think. We had a very short stint together, my shortest LDP assignment, actually. But the opportunity to just get to partner with her, and then the community and the relationship that we kept after that, it's been a God thing. Like, I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that Jeremy and Giovanna would play such a big part in my life to this day. They've been in Amarillo, Texas to visit me more than some of my family, which is like crazy, right? But it just goes to show, where their heart's at. And so I think getting to have another female in my life that obviously Giovanna's not an operator. She's very high up in her organization. She leads more people on a team than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But she just has a very high level leadership capacity. And I think not only has that been something to relate with, but she's really pushed me in a lot of different ways. And at the end of the day, knowing that, hey, it's going to be okay. Like, give it to God.
Right.
You're in this for a reason. Also, this is a marathon, not a sprint, which in this first year has been really hard to see. And so being able to call her and be brought back down to earth. But then also she's been a part of Chick-fil-A for so long that she's tried so many different things. She's seen so many different businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's been such an incredible resource, and me being able to skip so many steps and just be like, hey, I'm trying to I think I want to, implement this system. And she's like, oh girl, I got you. We did that in 2008 and here's all the documents from it. It's just the time aspect of that. Or, hey, actually, I don't think you want to do that. We tried it and this is where we failed miserably.
Right.
And so the fact that she's just so open, honest, and vulnerable has made it a lot easier for me to be that way with my team as well.
Yeah.
I really respect who she is, both as a leader, a wife, a mom. And so I've still got a lot to learn, but I'm really happy that she's in my life and I get the opportunity to just pick up the phone and call her whenever I need her, because she's definitely there for me.
She is the bomb. She's a good one.
I'll tell you.
Go ahead. What now?
I said she's a hot mess and she'll be the first one to tell you. But I'm a hot mess too.
and she's transparent, which is part of why we love her. But I tell people all the time, people undervalue, I think, a coach or a mentor, someone who's been where you are, and they can give you that perspective, like you were saying, hey, I did this, I tried this 10 years ago and 15 years ago and 20 years ago, and here's what I've learned. It just really saves you, not just in business, but parenting, relationships, life. So, those kind of relationships, I think, are priceless, and they're worth their weight in gold. Plus, she connected you and I. That's how you and I got connected. So,
I know, it's crazy.
Those lead to other good connections too.
Yeah.
But, well, like I said, Allie, I appreciate you joining me. And if anybody is driving through Amarillo, stop at the Chick-fil-A on South Coulter Street and get you some food and say hey to Allie.
Oh, yeah. I'll be there. Don't worry.
Well, thanks again for your time. Pray every blessing on you as you guys continue to lead, that the business would grow, your team would grow. You would get to be someone's Giovanna, and you get to see them go off and succeed and do great things, and you're a part of that. So anyway, I think very highly of you. So thanks for your time, and thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you, Justin, and also what you've done for our team thus far. I feel like our relationship's still pretty new, but just the small impact that you've already made is going to continue to grow as we work together. So I really appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you too. Thanks for that. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Leading Lounge, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us today. The Leading Lounge is brought to you by Communicate to Care, where we are building better leaders by building better people. For more information, visit us online at www.communicatecare.com. This is your host, Dr. Justin Dubose, and we'll see you next time, right here in the Leading Lounge.